Hello True Believer, today we're going to go through Let's Learn TinkerCad. So this is tutorial 2 in our series, and we're going to go through the basic interactions within TinkerCad. So here's the link here, up here, I'll put that in the description, and let's begin. So this is from the TinkerCad's official website, and we're going to get started with navigation and menus. So if you bring this up, there's a really good link here that shows you all the different types of shortcut keys that are really useful for getting used to the TinkerCad interface. Okay, so to begin with, you've got your normal work plane here, and we're just going to have our 3D interactions and all that sort of stuff going on in there. Not really useful, writing TinkerCad, blah blah blah. So exploring the work plane. So here's the work plane, which is the surface that you'll be placing these different objects on. Okay. And then up in the top left, you've got the viewing cube that allows you to look around different angles on the work plane. So if you click on here, you can actually rotate it around. If you click on specific sides and all these different corners, it will move around. Now the cool part with it, the Autodesk company is that they have the same viewing cube for all the different texts. So if you eventually learn Inventor, it's exactly the same sort of viewing cube. The other way that's really useful to get move around is you press the right mouse click and you can actually rotate around that way as well, which is probably what you'll use more than just the viewing cube. Although it is nice to come up here and just click and get it all centered and aligned properly. Okay, so that's literally one way of moving around the camera. So now we've got all these different objects on here. So we're going to see these silhouettes and fill in the objects. So here are the outlines on the objects, and we're just going to basically place the different shapes on top of each one of them. So if we click next, and then we've got our basic shapes menu. Now there's other ones in here eventually that you'll get to play with, but with the basic shapes we'll start with the beginning. So we've got the box, so you click on the box and place. Now again, if it doesn't fit perfectly, you can use the arrow keys to move it around, and that looks like I've aligned it properly to that little silhouette there. Okay. So then you can view the different sides and rotate around. So I just use the right click just to move around, or you can click on the viewing cube up here. Personally, I find right clicks a lot easier, especially when you're doing a lot of this. And like I did before, I moved the box around with the arrow keys. You can then zoom in with the scroll button. So you can either go here with the plus and minus, but if you've got the scroll wheel on your mouse, that makes it a whole heap easier. So you can scroll out and scroll in by cycling it forward and back. So forward moves in, back moves out. So there's 3 ways to move the camera around: is rotate, pan, and zoom. So we've done rotating by right click or by moving the viewing cube. We've zoomed in and out. Right, and then the last one is to actually pan across. So a couple of different ways of doing that. When we zoom, so move the mouse to the work plane, click on the right click to tilt your camera. While you hold shift, it actually moves across or translates across the object as well. So that's quite useful as well when you're moving around trying to find all the different things. So the 3 main things that you should be able to do from here is right click to move around, move the camera just around the fixed location. If you hold down shift and right click, it then moves the actual work plane around, and then if you scroll in and out with the mouse button, it should be able to make you move in. Okay. So the shape menu, if you click on any of the objects, up here comes a little attributes folder that has all the different things about the shape. So if you want to change the color, you click on the solids thing, and there's a whole heap of different colors in here. So if you click on the purple one, that changes the shape of the color of the shape. So then the next step is they want to drag a sphere. So we've got a sphere in the basic shapes, and we place it in there. Looks like I've hit the mark, which is great. And then this is a really useful diagram. So when you're moving around in the different planes, it's called the 3D modeler's salute. So you literally get your hand, either your left or your right, and you make a little L with your thumb stuck up. Okay, so then that gets used to the X going in, your Y going away from you, and then your Z going up and down. And you can think about which way the object is sort of placed based on this little 3D salute. Okay, so the work plane would be on the YZ, and then the height is handled by the Z axes. So translation is basically a fancy word for moving. So when we right click and we and hold down Shift and move, that moves the object around. So that is translating. Also, if we click on an object and move the left and the right and up and down, that also translates the object back and forward. Okay. Translating across an object across Z-axis, so we can't just use that left and right. We can press Control and up and down. That does move it up and down in the Z-axis, or we can simply click on, whoops, Control Z. If we click on the little black arrow, we can move him up like so. Cool. So the other way is also, if you're going to make it more specific, you want it to be 11. So if you go down here and type in 11 dot, it'll make exactly how far above and below. And because I've moved that around, there we go. It's in the right spot now. So if we were to translate objects across the X and Y, we just quickly drag it, and then we've got to move it 30 across. And we'll fix that so it's 0. Not quite in it, but there we go. Now if we want to place a hole into that object, let's make sure it's perfectly aligned. All you got to do, instead of being a solid color, we now go hole, and now there's a hole in top of the cube. Okay, so you can see that you've now basically placed the hole. Now to select multiple objects, there's two ways of doing that. You can either drag and click like that, which will select everything within that little viewing box that I've made there. Or you can go through and click on an object, hold down the Shift key and click on the specific things. Now when your shape gets more complex, that's probably easy to do. But while we're just dealing with simple things like that, that's one way of doing it. Oh, there's a third way, sorry, I forgot. If you press Control A, that also selects all objects on the viewing platform. So then we go there. And now if we want to group that, if we select there and we go group and then click out, we've now placed a hole inside of our little cube there. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in that little tutorial. Just to recap, we've learned how to move around on the axes. So if we hold down right click, we can move the camera around, so that's one of the options. If you hold down Shift and move across, that translates, and if you scroll in and out with your mouse wheel, that's the other thing. Moving on to the next lesson, I'll see you shortly.